within the social services sector, Mr. President. Mr. President, I also want to note that we are looking at the issue of agriculture and overall development. You know, it's always difficult because you have all these spurious things that come up within the discussion. And it would be interesting, I was saying to myself, that perhaps this government needs to have a record to show how much money we had to borrow to fix all of the things that we came into government to find broken. To find broken. To find that because of underinvestment and lack of care for the very people that they now pretend to care so much about, Mr. President. So much about, Mr. President, that we now have had to take up the mantle through our policies, again, through strategic mobilization of resources to be able to seek to address. And perhaps that is the scorecard that this government needs to be able to bring to the people, Mr. President. How much money we had to invest. Because that scorecard would show that a part of the debt that we had to repay was $407 million that we had to repay to clean up the CLICO mess, Mr. President. The scorecard would show that, because that's what we had to do, Mr. President. The scorecard would show that the investment includes something over $66 million that we have spent in road rehabilitation in Scotland District, Mr. President. The monuments that they scoff at and say we're spending money in monuments, I appreciate, Mr. President, they would not understand. I appreciate that they would not understand, because they don't understand nation building. They don't understand national identity and how to be able to do that. And how to be able to do that. The flapping curtains that they are talking about, Mr. President, provides opportunities for creatives to have performance spaces that they have not had. We said at the very beginning that the space needed further work. And, Mr. President, if you go up there today, you will find workmen that are there on the ground undertaking further work in order to reinforce the space, Mr. President. But again, I understand that people who are bereft of a strong nation-building ethos to know what it looks like would have a difficulty making those sorts of connections, Mr. President. And so I rest that there. Because, Mr. President, I think that the majority of Barbadians know the difference. The majority of Barbadians know the difference between sounding symbols, Mr. President. The majority of Barbadians know. And certainly, Mr. President, the continual confidence that has been reposed in this government suggests that the Barbadian public understands the difference. Mr. President, I want to note as well that this government's economic policies have become, in the international arena, in many instances, a standard bearer. Our introduction of natural disaster clauses, Mr. President, allowing and providing for fiscal space, is something that this government innovated about and which other countries are introducing. Our debt for nature clause as well, Mr. President, that allows this government to buy back its debt at a lower cost and then put that back into sustainable development, is also a standard bearer. This government continues to be able to innovate around how it mobilizes its finance, how it mobilizes capital to meet its critical development needs. But there are some of us, again, that cannot comprehend what good and sound policy management looks like. That the track record clearly shows that, and therefore, their inability to be able to understand and comprehend is covered and to be covered by the continual beating of chest and bleating, Mr. President, and bleating. Mr. President, these two resolutions for these loans will provide critical resources in key areas. One, that policy-based loan, Mr. President, for Barbados, $100 million. Barbados, $100 million. The schedule, Mr. President, as I can see here, speaks to that loan in Barbados dollars, as well as the resolution, Mr. President, on Sinopharm, Barbados dollars, Mr. President. Both of these resolutions are intended to make sure that we can continue for the young people that were here, Mr. President, to be able to invest in the kind of Barbados, in the provision of health care for their parents, for themselves, for their children, that we invest in our social services, Mr. President, not at the micro level, but at the macro level, that we can take care of those things, Mr. President, that will allow us to then be able to reap long-term benefits. Mr. President, I beg to move that the resolution for the borrowing of the government of Barbados with the sum of Barbados $100 million from the OPEC Fund for International Development on the terms and conditions contained in the agreement be now passed.
The question is that order number 11, which is the resolution to approve the borrowing of 100 million Barbados dollars. We have two loans, each of $50 million from the OPEC Fund for International Development for a program to strengthen social services. Do now pass. Will those honorable senators in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. I think the ayes have it. This resolution is now passed.
Mr. President, I beg to, sorry.
Of A, one building with an outpatient clinic, outpatient ward, a burn unit, and a laboratory center known as Queen Elizabeth Hospital Enmore site, extension lot 1 project, and B, one building with an oncology center and administration office and outside works known as Queen Elizabeth Hospital Enmore site, extension 1 or 2 project.
Senator Maronite.
Mr. President, I beg to move that order number 12 for the passing in accordance with the provisions of the Special Loans Act, Cap 105, the borrowing of the government of Barbados with the sum of approximately Barbados $313.6 million from the China Sinopharm International Corporation on the terms and conditions contained in the agreement and as set out in the schedule, for the design and construction of the building for an outpatient clinic, a patient ward, a burn unit, a laboratory center known as the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Moorsite Extension Lot 1 project, and one building with an oncology center, an administrative office, and outside works known as the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Moorsite Extension Lot 2 project be now passed.
The question is that this resolution, as indicated for Barbados $313.6 million from China Sinopharm for the purposes of the two projects related to the extension of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, Extension Lot 1 project and Extension Lot 2 project, do not pass. Those honorable senators in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it. This resolution is now passed.
Mr. President, that brings us to the end of government's business for today's sitting, and I want to thank all honourable members who have been here from the start of the day, and they have remained here even now. I want to also take the opportunity to acknowledge the maiden contribution by Senator Connell and to congratulate him on his intervention. Mr. President, I beg to move at this time that the Senate do adjourn until Friday, December the 19th, 2025 at 11 a.m.
The question is that the Senate be adjourned until Friday, December 19th, 2025 at 11 a.m. Will those honorable senators in favor please say aye? Aye. Those against please say no. Methinks the ayes have it. This honorable Senate is therefore adjourned until Friday, December 19th, 2025 at 11 a.m.